is Carlin Borisenko, and you're listening to the Actively Unwoke podcast. You can find full archives of the podcast over on my Substack at Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. That link will be in the show notes. And if you appreciate the work I'm doing, I am completely 100% funded by you. These podcasts, the Substacks, the videos I do on YouTube and Rumble, none of that happens without your support. So when you visit the Substack, please make sure you sign up for a membership. $8 a month, $80 for the year. I really do appreciate it. And the Substack is actually going to become really relevant for today's podcast because we're going to be starting a new adventure in the month of August. Leading up to back to school, I know it's still summer, but you know, that time, it's the fall beers are starting to come out. I just went to the craft beer store the other day and the pumpkin beers are starting to show up. And so even though it is still extremely hot in New Hampshire, and I don't like the heat so much, but that fall weather is peaking out, and so it's kind of almost getting to that back to school time. I know that some of you who have kids are probably going shopping and doing the things that people do when they're sending the kids back off to public school, which you should never do, by the way. Homeschool your children. Get them out of public school immediately, but that's another topic for another day. Anyway, I bring this up because we're going to start a new series on the Substack, and I'm going to call it the Re-Education series. We are all going to the re-education gulag, but I think that this gulag will be a little bit nicer than the gulags that the left has planned for us. Because here's the thing, last Saturday, I was doing my typical Socialism Saturday stream, which is every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find the stream on YouTube, X, and Rumble. And on Socialism Saturday, we watch far-left socialists. It's exactly like what it sounds. On Saturdays, we watch socialists. And I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm not talking about progressives. I'm not even talking about Democratic Socialists of America. I'm talking about the most radical revolutionary socialists in the country who have taken over all the major institutions and want to force our society through a Marxist cultural revolution. We spend some time every Saturday watching them, listening to what they have to say, listening to the plans they have, the strategies that they're using, the ideas they have, because if you do not understand your enemy, you cannot defeat them. And this past Socialism Saturday was a little bit of a wake-up call for me because typically when I do socialism streams or I'm streaming far-left content, I'll stop during the stream to do a pop quiz to test my chat on what they know and to kind of drill them on new concepts. Now, some people have been watching socialism with me for almost 3 years at this point, so I have a lot of veterans in my chat that really know their stuff. I also always have newbies coming in, so there are always new people watching the content and learning the ideas for the first time. I find that doing questions in the chat, pop quizzes, to drill people with this information over and over and over again is a really effective way to teach them, because not only am I reiterating the same ideas repeatedly because people learn through repetition, I'm also forcing the chat to teach me what they know. The very best way to learn something is to teach it to someone else. So the chat puts the ideas in their own words, they spit it back at me, and that's how I know that the teaching techniques that I'm using are being effective. Well, this past Socialism Saturday, I don't know what happened, but maybe the heat of the summer just got to everyone. But for some reason, people couldn't answer the most basic questions about the far left in the chat. And this was a little shocking to me. Even people who've been watching my content for a while were struggling with the most basic questions. And I was like, what is going on? What is happening? Have we slid into the land of retardia? As I like to say when people are not getting the answers correct. And that was a little distressing to me. And so I was thinking about that, but also, and this is a legitimate problem that I've been thinking about and have wanted to do something about for a while. It is really difficult when you're new to my content to have kind of an entry point where you can go through and get up to speed really quickly. I do have my How to Speak Socialist presentation. You can find that again over on the Substack, Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. Click on the link that says How to Speak Socialist up at the very top, and pinned to the top of that page, you're going to find the How to Speak Socialist presentation, which is basically 4 hours of clips of various far-left training that I've found over the past several years, all put into one place, and you have me explaining the clips to you so you can understand what's going on. But that's still a really big commitment. Watching a video for 4 hours and getting, quite frankly, overwhelmed by socialism is a little bit much for some people. And so I've wanted to kind of create this entry point for a while about, here are all the things you need to know about the far left. Just really short and to the point and written in plain English so everyone can understand it. It's not that people are dumb. It's not that they can't understand this information, but a lot of people are really busy. And so when you have these really complex explanations that speak in academic, flowery language, a lot of people kind of just tune that out. So I know my stuff has to be in plain English so it can reach the most people. And so these two things kind of combine. The fact that my audience descended into the land of retardia and forgot basic concepts about the left that they have known before, but something's going on and I don't know exactly what it is, combined with the fact that I want to create a better entry point for my content for people who might be new to it so that they can approach it and learn the material in a little bit of a less intimidating way, I suppose I should say. That's led me to launching the Re-Education series. And this is going to be a series under kind of like my Woke 101 series on the Substack, where I'm going to be just going back to the very beginning and reintroducing concepts and walking people through a series of articles to get every single person, no matter your political position, no matter your exposure to this type of content, no matter any of those things, up to speed on what the left is doing. And so what I want to do in the month of August, and maybe we'll do this into September. We'll see how long it goes, to be honest. I feel like I could probably be writing about this stuff for a while, is I'm challenging myself to post a new article every day explaining and breaking down a core leftist concept that you need to understand in order to understand the left. Now, there are just dozens and dozens and dozens of things that I can talk about. So this really could go on for a while. But the goal is not to make this an arduous task. I'm not going to ask people to read a novel-length essay every single day. The goal is to have something short and clear and to the point that you can kind of dig your hands into, your teeth into. I don't even know what the saying is, but you can kind of dig into really quickly, get a quick hit of information, get the point really quickly, and then go on with the rest of your day. And why I want to post this every day is just to get people into that rhythm of knowing, okay, got to do this quick hit of information. I got to spend 5 minutes on this. And when I spend 5 minutes a day on this, I will understand the left. And so I'm calling that the Re-Education series. You can find it on my Substack right now. These are written articles, but I do also want to do podcast versions of them on the Actively Unwoke podcast, where I'm kind of extrapolating out and maybe offering some additional ideas and commentary for people who are interested in that sort of thing. And so I thought what I would do is read the first article in the series. I'm calling it an introduction, and maybe talk about it a little bit more so that if you are a podcast listener, you do have that audio version. Also, obviously I'm already working on a book called How to Speak Socialist. You can find it at speaksocialist.substack.com. I'm actually writing the book as a Substack. It's going to be it's going to be written like a dystopian fiction, except everything in it's going to be real. I already have that project underway. Don't worry, that project's not going anywhere. I'm having writer's issues with that project right now. I have a lot of drafts that I need to get up. So if you've been waiting for a new update on that project, it's not that I'm not working on it. It's that sometimes when you're a writer, you start to doubt yourself and you have massive cases of imposter syndrome. And that's what's going on right now. Don't worry about it. I'm working through my feelings. Okay, there's going to be more content coming soon. So I'm already working on that book. However, it occurred to me last night when I was, thinking about how to do this Re-Education series, that once this series is done, I can literally just slap it into a book, self-publish it, and that way give people a quick reference guide, because that's what this is supposed to be. This is not supposed to be a lot of long essays and critiques and evidence and stuff like that, because I provide the evidence in different ways. I have video clips, I have almost daily live streams, I do other articles on the Substack that provide with more evidence. But what I want to create with this is a quick reference manual that anyone can have at the ready, whether it's a digital version or you have it on the Substack or you have the print version that I'll make with a nice little paperback little book. And it's probably not going to be a very long book because these are going to be really short articles, but I want to make a quick reference that people can do. And so one of the things I thought about is when I'm done this Re-Education series, The goal can be to kind of slap that into a book, self-publish it, get it out there so people can purchase it, or you can always refer to the Substack as well if you want to do that, but some people just like to have a hard copy. Also, that's something that you can give out to friends and family, stuff like that. And so I thought maybe I'd kill two birds with one stone and be working on two books at the same time. Who said I can't do such a thing if I'm writing so much content anyway, right? Anyway, so that's kind of the idea for this, and I want to read the first article in the series and kind of introduce you to it and maybe give a little bit more information on the podcast. So the first article is called Re-Education. Everything you need to know about the Marxist left that conservative influencers failed to teach you. Yes, I'm going there with that because, listen, like part of the reason that this re-education series is necessary is because conservative influencers have lied to their audience. I mean, I'm just going to say it. They've lied to their audience, and some of them know they're lying, and some of them don't know they're lying. But regardless, they've created a massive gap in knowledge based on the fact that they aren't doing their own research. Let's get into this article, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. The political left is behind every crazy idea wreaking havoc on our country. Critical race theory, gender ideology, queering kids in schools, drag queen story hour, attacks on parental rights, abolishing the nuclear family, protests on college campuses and in the streets, environmental justice, abortion on demand, defunding or abolishing the police, and more. Whenever there's chaos, you can bet a leftist is at the helm. If you're reading this, you probably already have a sense of this. You've seen protesters shouting their grievances, raising fists, and calling for revolution. Or you've watched viral videos on X shared by pundits to score political points. Maybe you've even stumbled upon my content on Substack, YouTube, Rumble, or X, meaning you probably already know more about the left than most people do. But here's the problem. There's a ton of bullshit out there about what the political left is and what they believe that's been spread by conservative influencers. Most people think they understand the left, but they don't. Consuming conservative rhetoric about the left is not the same thing as understanding the left, because rhetoric is not about the truth. It's propaganda designed to push a narrative against the opposing tribe. It's cherry-picked outrage bait, a nugget of truth buried under a mountain of lies. Always remember that the vast majority of influencers aren't here to inform you. They're here to make money by outraging their audiences. That's true of both sides of the political divide. They will lie to you with a smile on your face as long as you click on their content and reward them with the clout they desperately crave. Many don't realize this. They genuinely believe the popular voices they follow are giving them the whole story. But once you see beyond their selective narratives, everything changes. I stepped outside of the box at the beginning of 2021. I've been a Democrat for 20 years, but when social justice took over my knitting community in 2019, I realized the party I'd supported my entire adult life had abandoned its core values. My story went viral in early 2020 as Donald Trump was seeking re-election the first time. I found myself in the world of conservative influencers and MAGA grifters, appearing on shows to sell the narrative of Democrats leaving the left for Trump. I was even featured in a PragerU video. At the time, I shared my story because it resonated with people and offered hope for mending relationships torn by political tribalism. I thought the people I was working with genuinely wanted to bridge the political divide and make things better. I was very naive back then. In retrospect, I knew that I was just a tool in the political machine's narrative. I cannot adequately articulate the feeling of knowing you and your real-life story was used to achieve less than noble ends. I tell this story because I empathize with regular people trying to understand the left, who get sucked into conservative propaganda, thinking they're getting the truth, but what's actually happening is millions of people are being misinformed. In early 2021, I left the conservative echo chamber and began deep diving into leftist ideology on my YouTube channel, using publicly available videos to study what the left was doing. I started by watching their diversity trainings to reverse engineer how they were teaching DEI in organizations. Then I moved on to college and high school classes, activist trainings, and even infiltrated private sessions, recording them live for the world to see on my channel. My work has been seen by over 100 million people across all the platforms that it's been broadcast on. The more of their content I watched, the further left my journey took me. Eventually, I started spending most of my time watching trainings, conferences, and courses from the radical revolutionary far left, literal socialists and communists who are trying to overthrow the United States government. I've even gone undercover at their events, secretly recording them to show the world what they discuss when no one is listening. When you track all the crazy ideas pushed by the Democratic Party and progressives, it always leads to radical, revolutionary, far leftists. I refer to them as socialists, Marxists, communists interchangeably because that's how they refer to themselves. Over the last several years, I've watched thousands of hours of leftist training, more than anyone else on the planet to the best of my knowledge. I've built a massive archive of videos and clips where leftists explain their beliefs, their motivations, and plans for a cultural revolution. These are the things they say in private when they believe they're talking to each other and training the next generation of socialist activists. But they post the videos publicly where we can all find them. All we need to do is listen. Sadly, listening is not what most people are doing. The influencers informing the masses don't watch the leftist content I watch. They don't even know it exists. What they watch are TikTok videos designed to be outlandish to drive outraging clicks, or clips taken out of a much larger context that they will never seek out to understand. What happens in real leftist training and strategy sessions is far worse than what you hear from conservative voices on X. It's much darker than you think. I believe in knowing your enemy to defeat them. Yet millions think they understand leftist ideology, but are completely misinformed by their influencers. This series will provide you with a re-education about the left. Each post will feature a brief explanation of a core leftist concept or clear up a common misperception about the left. Written in plain English, it's designed to be quick and easy to digest. This isn't a deep dive, it's a quick reference guide to help you grasp what's happening in the world. Follow the series from start to finish, and you'll understand the left's motivations and strategies better than most self-proclaimed experts. For more in-depth information, or if you have questions, join me on my daily live streams on YouTube, X, and Rumble. I'm happy to answer your questions or delve deeper into any topic. You can access my extensive archive of videos and clips for more context. That's more than enough introduction. Let's dive in. Make sure you're subscribed and get the posts, or the podcast as it were, as they go up. And please consider supporting my work on the Substack. Again, carlin.substack.com, Karlyn. If you appreciate it, you can sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year to support the work I'm doing. So that is the introductory post to this series. And, just to provide a little bit more commentary, I guess, it's not that, people think that I like shitting on conservatives, for lack of a better term. And what, there is, just the tiniest little bit of enjoyment when I do it. But the fact is, I really wish that conservative influencers were not lying to their audiences. I would be thrilled if conservative influencers were not misleading their audiences, because frankly, this is a hill that I've been climbing up for years and years and years, and I didn't realize how bad the problem was until probably about 9 months ago. I didn't realize because I wasn't really paying attention to what conservative influencers were saying. I was focusing on my work and I was listening to the left. And when I realized the massive disconnect between what the left is actually saying, and when I say the left, I watch a wide variety of groups. I don't just watch one specific group. I watch the most active far left activists in the country across all the different groups, across all the different collectives, all the different organizing units, all the different parties. There are many socialist and communist political parties. And I watch all of them, as many as I can find, to get a broad array of what the left believes. So I'm not talking about one specific group. I'm talking about these are the most active people on the left. And what they're talking about and what they're doing is just fundamentally disconnected with what you read about the left and see about the left on the conservative influencer sphere. And this is dangerous because, people who tune into things like Fox News or the Daily Wire or Dan Bongino or what are any of these other really big shows? I don't even know anymore because I just don't really watch them unless I have to. James Lindsay, Turning Point USA. I could probably go on and on and on. what you're hearing from them is a conservative interpretation of what the left is doing. That doesn't necessarily mean it's what the left is actually doing, because the conservative interpretation is not designed to articulate the truth. The conservative interpretation is designed to make money. That's what these people care about. Making money by outraging their audiences. And caught up in the middle of this are just normal people who are looking for answers that they think that these people are providing them with the answers, but they're not. They're just using them to make money. And again, I say this, I really don't want anyone to feel bad, but like, because I've been there, I literally was there. I was literally one of the tools that these people used in order to drive outrage and clicks and make money. I gave a year of my life to this before I realized what was going on, because I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was helping people learn about the left, and then come to realize that the things they were telling me were bullshit too. And so I understand that it's not pleasant to realize that you've been lied to. It's really not. But facts are facts. And when I first woke up to the idea that what conservative influencers and pundits and commentators were telling their audiences, it was wrong about the left, it was a little bit of a mind F for me to go through, to be honest, because, again, I hadn't really been paying attention to what the right was saying about the left for several years. I don't know exactly when this happened, because I was focusing entirely on immersing myself in the left to understand them, and so I just wasn't listening. And when I came up for air, there was just a massive disconnect between what the right was saying and what the left was actually doing. And I don't know about you, but if you've listened this far, it's probably true of you. I actually care about beating the left. I think the left winning would cause a lot of death, mostly through starvation because they want to control the food supply, but there are other things too. I think it would be disastrous. I think it would be the death of the American dream. I think it would be awful. It would be awful. But the fact is that I think the left is going to win purely because the right does not understand the left, and for better or worse, the right are the people that we have to fight the left. There is no large group of people as large as like the conservative right or the MAGA right or the Republican Party, however you want to classify it. There is no group of people that is large enough to actually push back on the left other than the right. And the right is completely misinformed about what the left is doing, which means the right doesn't understand their enemy, which means they can never beat them. They can make a lot of money by not beating them. They can make a lot of money by outraging their audiences. They can do that. And that keeps them in their nice clothes and their fancy cars and their nice houses. And it keeps them having clout and status as podcast hosts and things like that. But it doesn't mean that it's actually going to be effective in beating the left. And I know this because the left is making progress all the time. Conservatives can claim they're winning the culture war all they want, which they do all the time. They go to their audiences, we're winning, look, people are turning against. Matt Walsh just last week said, look, we have been more effective at fighting trans ideology than any other issue, and we are winning the trans debate. And I'm like, bro, I can point to school districts where 40% of the kids are identifying as genderqueer. You are not winning the trans debate. You are lying to people to give them a false sense of hope and a false sense of security as they send their kids off to public school where they will be introduced to gender ideology. They will be introduced to queer theory. They will be part of GSAs and rainbow clubs and social justice and all that stuff. And they'll come out believing that they're not a boy or a girl, that the gender binary doesn't exist. And that is exactly the point. It was never about grooming kids. It was never even about transitioning their gender through medical means, although that was an outcome of it for some people, sadly. It was about teaching kids that the gender binary didn't exist. That was the goal. That was the goal all along. Conservatives don't know this. And so because they don't understand what the ultimate goal of the left is, and by the way, the left talks about this all the time. Just Google breaking the binary or abolish the gender binary. And you'll see all sorts of stuff come up because that is the goal. That's always been the goal. That's just one example of this huge disconnect where the right's going, we're winning the debate. But if you look in real life and you actually understand what the objective of the game is, the right is playing a completely different effing game. This is like the left is playing a game of football and the right is playing a game of golf. Not even professional golf. The right is playing a game of mini golf. The right is playing a game of mini golf on the sideline of the football stadium, while the left is playing football and they're still barreling through and they're still scoring their touchdowns and they're racking up the points, and the right's over here playing mini golf. It's a completely different game. But they're like, look, they're not playing mini golf with us, so we're winning. It's like, no, it's not that you're winning. It's that you're playing mini golf by yourself and you don't actually have a real opponent for what you're doing because they're off playing a completely different game that's actually much more destructive than the game that you're playing right now. Anyway, I know I get excited about this stuff, but it is actually really terrifying to me. And just to get a little bit personal, I think people who've been following my content for a while, you've probably noticed over the past several months, I've kind of been I've been really struggling, if I'm honest about it. I've been struggling because I can see very clearly how much the right is fumbling the ball, and it's just like, I sit here sometimes going, we're going to lose, and we're going to lose badly. We've already lost. Like, we are so effed. Like, there's nothing we can do about it. And it's not true that there's nothing we can do about it, but if people do not understand the truth, if people do not understand what's going on, if people don't start hinging themselves into reality, then the left will win. And it will happen in our lifetimes. I'm absolutely convinced of this. I think that we have got 15 years left. Tops. And I feel like I'm really being generous with that. Maybe only 10 years left to turn this around, to turn it back. And that's a tall order, guys. That is a tall order. Social change happens very slowly. I do not have a giant platform. I have a bigger platform than most, but I don't have a giant platform. I don't have influence. I don't have a radio show. Conservative influencers ignore my content every single day, even when it's absolutely some of the craziest stuff from the left that you're ever going to see, because conservative influencers look at someone like me and I call them out on lying to their audiences and they go, oh, you're a leftist. And it's just like, it's the most mind-boggling thing. But like, I only have the ability to influence so many people. I only have the ability to teach so many people. So I can't just turn on my microphone and change the world. I wish I could. Believe me, I wish I could. But I guess writing this series is doing what I can do, right? And making these podcasts is doing what I can do. And maybe some of you, if you care about this topic and you have watched my content, you've interacted with my content, listen, I know that I'm not everyone's favorite person. I know that some people really struggle with my tone. I know that some people struggle with my language, and I get all that. But is your dislike of me, this is what I would ask my critics anyway, is your dislike of me more important to you than beating the left? And if it is, then why are we listening to you anyway? If my tone is more important to you than beating the left and handing a world to your children that is not the Marxist utopia, then why are we even listening to you anyway? It just seems to me like your priorities are all screwed up. Anyway, I've gone on long enough at this point. I've gone on, I think, longer than I normally do for these podcasts, but I do hope that you guys will join me for the re-education series. I will be posting daily articles over on the Substack, carlin.substack.com. I'm going to try to do podcast versions of them as well. I may not do that perfectly just because it does take time to record and edit and stuff like that, but I'll try to do as many as I can. And again, guys, if you want to support the work I'm doing, I would really appreciate it. Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for a membership, $8 a month, $80 a year. I can't do it without you. Let's keep going.
What have we done to